And we are going to do solving quadratics by completing the square. Okay? And what we're going to do is we're going to start with number 1. So I've got s squared minus 5s plus 6 is equal to 0. Okay? All right. Now, I am going to work on this side of my paper. Okay? And for some reason, I must have put it Alright. So, first thing I'm going to do is move this over. I'm going to subtract 6 from both sides. Okay? So now I'm left with s squared minus 5s, I'm going to leave some room, is equal to negative 6. Alright, so this is like step number 1. Okay? I'm going to find out, and I'm going to come over here. Rather than do it underneath like he was doing it, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to do half of negative 5 is equal to negative 5 halves. Okay? That's step number 1. Okay? Step number 2 is then I'm going to square that number. So I'm going to take negative 5 halves squared, and that is going to give me a positive 25 over 4. Negative 5 times negative 5 gives me positive 25. Negative 2 times negative 2 gives me a positive 4. Then step 3 is plug it in. Okay? So plug in the number into both sides of the equation. So I'm at step number 3 right here. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I am going to write s squared minus 5s plus 25 over 4 is equal to negative 6 plus 25 over 4. Okay? Now I'm going to simplify my right side. All right, that's step number 4. So number 4, and if you notice, I'm leaving lots of nice pretty room. Okay, I'm going to do s squared minus 5s plus 25 over 4 is equal to, and in my calculator, I am going to put in negative 6 plus parentheses 25 divided by 4, hit enter. I'm going to keep it as a fraction. Math, enter, enter, and I get positive what? 1/4. 1/4. So I'm going to write positive 1/4. Okay? So we're already on step 5. Write the binomials for the perfect square. Trinomial on the left side using the number from step 1. So now I'm going to go back, and this is step number 5. And what I've done is I'm going to take this number right here, and I'm going to write s minus negative 5. Actually, just s subtract, because it's negative, I'm going to use a subtract sign, 5 over 2, times s subtract 5 over 2. And then I'm going to put is equal to 1/4. Okay? If it was a positive, I'd have s plus 5 over 2. But it's a negative, so I'm going to use the subtract sign. Okay? Now, I have 5a and 5b on your steps. This was 5a. 5b is where I'm going to rewrite that as s minus 5 halves squared underneath the square root sign is equal to 1/4. fourth. Actually, I would have written it without the square root sign. Probably should have done that first because otherwise it will confuse you. Because, okay, then, okay, I'm going to, number 6 is take the square root of both sides. So if I take the square root of s minus 5 halves squared is equal to the square root of 1/4, okay? And when I get that, I'm going to write my answer for step 6. That's number 7. I get s minus 5 halves because all you're doing is you're just taking the square root of a square, which means it's just one time, right? No big deal. Okay. Then is equal to, and remember when I take a square root here, I'm going to have plus or minus, okay, because it's a number. So I'm going to have plus or minus, and if I put in my calculator, second square root, parentheses, 1 divided by 4, parentheses, and I get out of there and hit enter, I get 0.5. I'm going to keep it as a fraction though. Math, enter, enter, and I get 1/2. Okay? So now I'm going to bring my variable over. So I have plus 5 halves and plus 5 halves. Okay? So this would be step number 8, getting my variable by itself. Okay, so now I have s is equal to 5 halves plus or minus 1/2. And my 5 halves was positive. Okay, so step number 9 says write as two separate equations. So number 9 says s is either equal to 5 halves plus 1/2 or s is equal to 5 halves minus 1/2. And 5 halves plus 1/2 is what? Number 10 is your answer. S is equal to 6 halves, which is equal to what? 3. Or s is equal to 5 minus 1 is 4 over 2, 4 halves, which is 2. Was it that bad?
No, could you explain?
Okay. All right. So we're going to do a couple more, but if you use these step-by-step instructions, you won't get in trouble. It'll be pretty easy. All right. All right. Let's do number 2. Okay.
We're going to cut down a whole tree today.
We're going to cut down a whole tree this week. Okay. Okay. So number 2. See which one I have the best notes on for number 2. See, I've been doing this. Let's just do this. Okay, number 2. I've got g squared. I think I like this one. All right, so number 2 says g squared plus 7g minus 44 is equal to 0. And this is essentially what I do when I work these problems. I just do this, and I bring it over. G squared plus 7g is equal to 44. I now come over here and do step 1. 1/2 of 7 is equal to 7 halves, and you notice I just keep it as a fraction, okay? Step 2 is then to take 7 halves, square it, which is equal to 49 over 4. I'm not simplifying it. I do not want it simplified. And if you guys put it in your calculator, it's going to simplify it. So just do 7 times 7, and 2 times 2. You guys know how to do that, don't you? Hope so. Okay? Now I need to add that 49 over 4, and if you go to step 3, it says plug the number into both sides of the equation. Plug the number from number 2 into both sides of the equation. Plug the number from number 2, okay? It doesn't say from number 2, so please, I guess I should have said that. So number 3 is step number 3. I'm going to say g squared plus 7g, and I have a positive 49 over 4 is equal to 44 plus 49 over 4. Okay? All right, step number 4. I'm going to simplify this over here before I do anything else. I'm going to do g squared plus 7g plus 49 over 4 is equal to, when I take 44 plus parentheses 49 divided by 4, parentheses, in my calculator, I get 225 over 4. Okay. Alrighty, step 5 says write the binomials 5a for the perfect square trinomial on the left side using the number from step 1. So, number 5, we're going to go back to step 1 and use 7 halves, and I'm going to write g plus 7 halves times g plus 7 halves is equal to 225 over 4. Not bad, right? Now what have I got? I'm going to rewrite it for 5b as g plus 7 halves squared is equal to 225 over 4. And if you know your perfect squares, it works out really well. Okay? All right, so now number 6 is to take the square root of that, right? So I'm going to rewrite it out for now. I know you probably can just go up there and put your square root sign, but I'm going to do it the long way, okay, just so that we have clear notes, okay? So step 7 is g plus 7 halves is equal to, and if you don't believe me, then let's do this, and let's put in second square root, parentheses, 225 divided by 4, and get out of underneath the square root sign and hit enter. And I'm going to do math, enter, enter. I'm going to leave it in a fraction. It's so much easier. Please leave it in a fraction, okay? So I get 15 over 2. And if you knew the square root of 225 is 15, you'd be right there. And if you knew the square root of 4 is 2, then you knew that it was 15 over 2. And it's not 15 over 2. What is it? What did I forget? Plus or minus 15 over 2. Okay? So then I'm going to bring and clean up my act here, and I'm going to do minus 7 halves and minus 7 halves, and I'm going to end up with g is equal to negative 7 halves plus or minus 15 over 2. Okay, that's step 8. Step 9 is going to be g is equal to negative 7 halves plus 15 over 2, or g is equal to negative 7 halves minus 15 over 2. Okay. And step number 10, g is equal to, you can put this in your calculator or you can do it in your head. 15 take away 7 is what? 8, because they have the same common denominator. So you're just, they're different signs. So the difference of two signs is 8 over 2, which is equal to what? 4. Okay? Or G is equal to, now the signs are the same, so I'm going to combine them. I get negative 22 over 2, which is actually equal to a negative 11. Ah, easy peasy, people. Okay. We'll do one more. Number 5.
Miss Woods,
Yeah.
the bill is like 50
Is it?
It's my mind.
All right. Well, here's number 5, and I am going to put it on the website, or would you like a copy of it? Want a copy?
Sure.
I can make you a copy. Okay? Because now you're dealing with a 12 out there, right? Okay? All right. I will give you a copy of it.